Chapter TiVo, the DVR pioneer that got copied to death. Picture this, it's 1999 and you're rushing home from work, panicking because you're about to miss the season finale of your favorite show. You burst through the door, frantically searching for a blank VHS tape, only to realize you forgot to set the VCR timer again. Sound familiar? Well, a small Silicon Valley startup called TiVo was about to change television forever with a magical little black box that could pause live TV, rewind real-time broadcasts, and record shows with the intelligence of a personal assistant. Founded in 1997 by Mike Ramsey and Jim Barton, two former Silicon graphics engineers, TiVo didn't just create another recording device, they invented an entirely new relationship between viewers and television. The company's Series 1 DVR, launched in March 1999 with a hefty price tag of $499 plus a $9.95 monthly subscription fee, featured a 14-hour recording capacity and the revolutionary ability to learn your viewing habits through its recommendation engine. But here's the kicker. While TiVo was busy perfecting the art of digital video recording and building a cult following of devoted users who spoke in terms of TiVoing shows, the cable and satellite giants were watching, learning, and preparing to steal their thunder with cheaper, more accessible alternatives that would ultimately crush the very company that taught them how to do it. TiVo's technology was nothing short of revolutionary for its time, built on a Linux-based operating system that could multitask in ways that left VCRs looking like Stone Age artifacts. The device could record one show while you watched another, automatically record entire seasons of programs with Season Pass, and even skip commercials with a feature they diplomatically called 30-second skip, though they kept this particular gem hidden from advertisers by making users enter a secret code to activate it. The Series 2 DVR, launched in 2002, added networking capabilities and increased storage to 80 hours, while introducing the ability to transfer recordings to your computer or stream content from your PC to your TV. TiVo's recommendation system, powered by collaborative filtering algorithms, was so sophisticated that it would suggest shows based on thumbs-up and thumbs-down ratings, creating eerily accurate predictions about what you might want to watch next. The company even introduced the concept of wishlist searches that could automatically record any program matching specific criteria, whether it was every movie starring Tom Hanks or every documentary about sharks. By 2001, TiVo had expanded beyond just recording, partnering with companies like AOL and Yahoo to bring internet content directly to your television screen, essentially creating the first smart TV platform years before that term even existed. The magic of TiVo wasn't just technological, it was cultural, creating a devoted fan base that bordered on religious fervor and fundamentally changing how America consumed television content. TiVo subscribers who called themselves TiVo evangelists would literally corner friends and family members to demonstrate their device's capabilities, leading to the phenomenon of TiVo parties, where owners would show off their recorded content and teach others how to navigate the intuitive interface. The company's impact on viewing habits was so profound that TiVo became a verb, joining the ranks of Google and Xerox as brand names that transcended their corporate origins to become part of everyday language. Nielsen ratings began tracking time-shifted viewing specifically because of TiVo's influence, and television networks started panicking about commercial skipping, with some even threatening to pull their content from the platform. The cultural shift was so dramatic that TiVo subscribers reported watching 12% more television than non-subscribers, simply because the friction of finding and recording shows had been eliminated. Media critics hailed TiVo as the most important innovation in television since the remote control, and Time magazine named it one of the coolest inventions of 1999, recognizing that this little black box was fundamentally rewiring the entertainment industry's relationship with its audience. Despite the critical acclaim and passionate user base, TiVo faced immediate challenges in building a sustainable business model that would prove to be their Achilles' heel throughout their corporate existence. The company's hardware plus subscription model meant they were essentially subsidizing expensive DVR units while hoping to recoup costs through monthly service fees over several years, a risky bet that required massive scale to work effectively. Manufacturing costs for the Series 1 units were actually higher than the retail price, meaning TiVo lost money on every device sold and needed subscribers to stick around for at least 18 months just to break even on the hardware subsidy. The situation was complicated by the fact that early adopters, while enthusiastic, represented a relatively small market segment willing to pay premium prices for cutting-edge technology that most consumers didn't even understand they needed yet. TiVo's partnership strategy initially focused on satellite TV providers DirecTV and Dish Network, creating integrated DVR units that seemed promising but ultimately gave these partners too much control over the customer relationship and pricing structure. The company went public in September 1999, raising $72 million in their IPO, but the dot-com crash of 2000 made raising additional capital increasingly difficult just as they needed massive investments to scale manufacturing and marketing. By 2001, TiVo was burning through cash at an alarming rate, spending over $200 million annually while generating less than $50 million in revenue, creating a ticking time bomb that would force them into increasingly desperate partnerships and licensing deals. Enter the cable companies, who had been watching TiVo's innovation with a mixture of admiration and concern, realizing that DVR technology represented both a threat to their traditional business model and an enormous opportunity if they could control it themselves. Comcast, Time Warner Cable, and other major cable operators initially viewed TiVo as a potential partner, but quickly recognized that the monthly subscription fees and customer loyalty that TiVo generated could be captured by offering their own DVR services instead. Scientific Atlanta and Motorola, the dominant manufacturers of cable set-top boxes, began developing DVR capabilities that could be integrated directly into standard cable boxes, eliminating the need for a separate TiVo device and monthly subscription fee. The cable company's advantage was devastating in its simplicity. They could bundle DVR functionality into existing cable packages for a small additional monthly fee, typically $5 or $10, while providing the convenience of a single device that handled both cable reception and recording without requiring any additional setup or technical knowledge. Comcast launched their first DVR service in 2003, initially licensing TiVo's technology but quickly transitioning to their own platform developed with Motorola that offered basic recording functionality without TiVo's advanced features like recommendations and season pass. Time Warner Cable followed with their own DVR service in 2004, and within 2 years, every major cable operator in America was offering DVR functionality that directly competed with TiVo's standalone devices. The cable company's distribution advantage was insurmountable. They had direct relationships with over 60 million households and could market DVR services through existing customer service channels, installation appointments, and monthly billing statements. The satellite TV industry dealt an even more devastating blow to TiVo through a partnership that initially seemed like salvation, but ultimately became a trap that limited their growth and strategic flexibility. DirecTV had been TiVo's most important partner since 1999, offering integrated DirecTV TiVo units that combined satellite reception with DVR functionality and represented the majority of TiVo's subscriber base by 2003. However, DirecTV's 2003 acquisition by News Corporation, Rupert Murdoch's media empire, fundamentally changed the relationship dynamics and strategic priorities in ways that TiVo couldn't have anticipated. News Corporation viewed TiVo's monthly subscription fees as revenue that should flow to DirecTV rather than a third-party vendor and began developing their own DVR platform that would eliminate the need for TiVo's services entirely. In 2005, DirecTV announced they would stop marketing TiVo-enabled receivers and transition to their own DVR platform developed with NDS, a News Corporation subsidiary, effectively ending the partnership that had sustained TiVo's growth for 6 years. The transition was brutal for TiVo. DirecTV represented over 60% of their subscriber base, and losing this partnership meant watching millions of customers gradually churn away as their integrated units failed and were replaced with DirecTV's proprietary DVR boxes. Dish Network had already developed their own DVR capabilities with their Dish Player and later VIP series receivers, leaving TiVo without any major satellite TV distribution partners by 2007. The satellite industry's defection was particularly damaging because these partnerships had provided TiVo with subscriber scale and recurring revenue without the massive marketing costs required to acquire customers directly in retail channels. As the competitive landscape shifted dramatically against them, TiVo found themselves fighting a multi-front war against better-funded opponents who controlled the critical distribution channels that reached mainstream consumers. The company's retail strategy faced enormous challenges because selling standalone DVR units required educating consumers about technology they didn't know they needed, competing against free cable company alternatives, and convincing people to pay both hardware and subscription costs for functionality their cable provider could deliver more conveniently. TiVo's marketing campaigns, while creative and memorable, struggled to overcome the fundamental disadvantage of asking consumers to purchase and install additional equipment when cable companies were offering integrated solutions through existing services. The Series 3 HD DVR, launched in 2006 for $790, offered superior picture quality and advanced features like multi-room viewing, but the premium pricing put it even further out of reach for mainstream consumers who were increasingly satisfied with basic cable company DVR functionality. TiVo's subscriber growth stalled around 3 million users in 2005 and began declining as DirecTV customers churned and retail acquisition costs skyrocketed above $300 per new subscriber. The company attempted various pivot strategies, including advertising-supported models, retail partnerships with Best Buy and Amazon, and even a brief experiment with downloadable content, but none could overcome the structural disadvantages they faced against integrated cable and satellite offerings. By 2007, TiVo was losing subscribers faster than they could acquire new ones, creating a death spiral where declining revenue made it increasingly difficult to invest in product development and marketing necessary to compete with rapidly improving cable company alternatives. The patent warfare that consumed TiVo's final years as an independent company revealed both the strength of their original innovations and the limitations of intellectual property as a business strategy against well-funded competitors with deeper pockets and longer timelines. TiVo's patent portfolio, built around their original DVR innovations from the late 1990s, covered fundamental aspects of digital video recording, program guide integration, and time-shifting functionality that virtually every DVR system required to operate effectively. The company's most significant legal victory came in 2006, when a federal jury ruled that Dish Network's DVR receivers infringed TiVo's patents and awarded $74 million in damages, a decision that seemed to validate their intellectual property strategy and provide hope for similar victories against other competitors. However, the patent litigation process proved to be a double-edged sword that consumed enormous resources while providing inconsistent results and taking years to resolve through appeals and countersuits. TiVo's lawsuit against Verizon's FiOS DVR service resulted in a $250 million settlement in 2009, demonstrating the value of their patent portfolio, but also highlighting how competitors could simply treat patent licensing as a cost of doing business rather than a barrier to entry. The company's legal battles with Motorola, Scientific Atlanta, and eventually Cisco dragged on for over a decade, generating hundreds of millions in settlements and licensing fees, but failing to prevent these companies from developing alternative DVR technologies that worked around TiVo's patents. Patent litigation became TiVo's primary business strategy by 2010, with legal settlements and licensing revenue actually exceeding their subscription income, transforming them from an innovative technology company into essentially a patent licensing operation with a declining subscriber base. The final chapter of TiVo's independence came in 2016 when Rovi Corporation, a digital entertainment guide company, acquired them for $1.1 billion in a deal that was more about patent portfolios and licensing revenue than the original DVR technology that had revolutionized television viewing. By this point, TiVo's subscriber base had dwindled to fewer than 1 million users, a fraction of their peak audience, while cable companies were serving DVR functionality to over 50 million households using technology that had evolved far beyond TiVo's original innovations. The irony was that TiVo's core vision had completely won. Time-shifting, on-demand viewing, and intelligent content recommendations had become standard features that consumers expected from any television service, but the company that invented these concepts had been unable to maintain control over their own innovations. Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and other streaming services were implementing sophisticated recommendation algorithms that made TiVo's original collaborative filtering look primitive, while smart TVs and streaming devices were delivering the integrated entertainment experience that TiVo had pioneered but never successfully scaled. The Rovi acquisition essentially marked the end of TiVo as a consumer electronics company, transforming their brand and technology into licensing assets that would generate revenue for patent holders rather than innovative products for television viewers. Cable companies continued operating millions of DVR units using technology concepts that TiVo had invented, paying licensing fees that represented a tiny fraction of the revenue they generated from DVR services, while consumers who had never heard of TiVo enjoyed time-shifting capabilities that seemed as natural and expected as channel changing. TiVo's rise and fall represents one of technology's most frustrating cautionary tales about the difference between innovation and market success, demonstrating how a company can create an entire product category while failing to build a sustainable competitive advantage that prevents larger competitors from copying their homework and controlling distribution channels. The fundamental problem wasn't that TiVo lacked vision or technical expertise. Their original DVR concept was genuinely revolutionary and years ahead of anything competitors offered, but rather that they couldn't solve the business model puzzle of competing against integrated service providers who controlled customer relationships and could bundle competitive functionality into existing offerings. Cable and satellite companies didn't need to build better DVRs than TiVo. They just needed to build good enough DVRs that were more convenient and less expensive for consumers to obtain, leveraging their existing infrastructure and customer relationships to make TiVo's standalone approach seem unnecessarily complicated and costly. The streaming revolution that followed vindicated many of TiVo's original insights about on-demand viewing and intelligent recommendations, but companies like Netflix and Amazon succeeded by controlling content libraries and subscription relationships rather than trying to sell hardware that interfaced with other companies' services. TiVo's legacy lives on in every DVR, streaming service, and smart TV that offers time-shifting and personalized recommendations, but the company that invented these concepts serves as a sobering reminder that being first and being best often isn't enough when competitors control the channels through which customers discover and purchase technology solutions. In the end, TiVo taught the entire entertainment industry how the future of television would work, then watched helplessly as that industry used their lessons to build business models that made TiVo's approach obsolete.